Hello. Yeah, it's deadline day today. Well, we better make some final decisions then. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan. Happy deadline day, and it's time to make those final decisions in our FPL team. And we've got a bumper video for you today to give you all the information you need ahead of the Game Week 1 deadline, as well as answering those key questions as well. Guys, leave a like if you enjoy this one. Let's get started. Okay, we've got a new format for the final decisions videos this season where we're going to be looking through the team news from each team, but we're going to be doing it by fixture, so we can look at how each of the team news from each of the teams within the fixture impacts that game. So, for example, looking at Manchester United and their team news, we've got the news that De Ligt and Mazraoui will be in the squad. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they will play, but they will at least be in that squad. And with Maguire fit to start as well, could that impact some of our Fulham players? So it's good to have that comparison there. We also do know that Manchester United see Luke Shaw with a short-term injury, so he is going to be out at least for Game Week 1. For Fulham, they have got a clean bill of health, just like we saw so much last season. I swear the Fulham team, they're just so good in the medical department. They never have any injuries, and even Smith Rowe should be playing despite the fact that the manager has said that he will take some time to get himself in the best physical condition. So don't expect 90 minutes every game from Smith Rowe immediately, but hopefully he'll get there pretty soon. For Ipswich, Hurst and Broadhead will be out for at least a month during the start of the season. However, there is good news for Ipswich as Calvin Phillips has joined them from Manchester City, and although I think it might be too soon for Phillips to start, it is possible that that does happen. So keep an eye on that one as we approach Saturday's game. For Liverpool, no players were missing from training this week, so they've got another really nice clean bill of health, which is quite rare for Liverpool actually. So they're going to be in really good spirits ahead of a really nice fixture run. Even Robertson could start having regained fitness, but be aware of the Liverpool players, Robertson is probably the most in danger of missing out in the left back position. It could be Robertson, it could be Tsimikas, so be aware of that one. Of course, if you do want to check out all of the predicted lineups for Game Week 1, I did make a video on it, so check that out. That is on my channel. For Arsenal, Timber is available for the weekend, but Tomiyasu remains out for a few weeks. Vieira is also doubtful for Game Week 1. However, I'm not sure if he would have been starting this game anyway. For Wolves, lots of good news here. Cunha suffered a hamstring injury, but is going to be available after all for Game Week 1. He's been playing behind the striker in recent friendlies as kind of a second striker. Strand Larson felt some discomfort in a recent friendly, but he should be okay as well. And Lamina had some cramp in that most recent friendly, but again, is absolutely fine. For Everton, Branthwaite, Coleman, Patterson, and Coleman are all available. For some reason, I've written Coleman down there twice, but I guess it's because Coleman is a very important player to Everton, you know, long-standing captain for the club and all that. Garner is also out with a calf injury, and Keane has trained ahead of Game Week 1. Apologies, guys, for including Coleman twice. It is gone 3 a.m. as I record this video. Maybe a little bit of tiredness seeping in, but moving on to Brighton, Estupiñán, Ferguson, and Lamptey are back in training, which is really interesting news for the likes of Barco. A lot of people expected Barco to be secure for the first few game weeks. However, with Estupiñán back in training, both of those players playing at left back, it could be that Barco's time might be almost up already. He still should be good for Game Week 1, Barco, but after that, maybe not so much if Estupiñán is reintegrated into the first 11. Verbruggen and Enciso and March are still out, and Brighton are signing a new attacking midfielder slash striker, Rutter, from Leeds. That should be going through very, very soon as confirmed. Might even be confirmed by the time this video comes out. So yeah, something definitely to be aware of if you are going for João Pedro. We've got the likes of Ferguson coming back, new attacking midfielder slash striker coming in for Brighton. I think that damages the likes of João Pedro's minutes a little bit. So yeah, maybe just be aware of that if you are picking João Pedro in your FPL team. For Newcastle, Fabian Schär has trained ahead of Game Week 1, so he should be available. Good news there. And although it's difficult to get definitive news from Eddie Howe, apparently there are still decisions to be made in the starting 11, including who is going to be starting at centre-back alongside Fabian Schär. Is it going to be Burn or is it going to be Kelly? So maybe that damages Burn a little bit, but Anyhow, absolutely loves Dan Burn, and he can never be trusted, so I think we're probably safe to assume that Burn starts, but I had to share that information with you anyway. Wilson is out with a back injury. Miley, Botman and Lascelles also remain out. And for Southampton, Sulemana, Lallana and Stewart are close to a return, but I'm not sure they're going to be quite ready. And Larios has returned to the under-21 teams. He's got a bit of game time there. Again, unlikely to feature in Game Week 1. For Forest, there are no big issues in the squad. Apparently, there are always some small issues in terms of fitness and injuries, but no big issues, which is good news there. Awani is fit and available to be part of the squad as well for Game Week 1, so just be aware of that. If you own Chris Wood, for example, we could see Awani getting some minutes in this Forest striker slot. For Bournemouth, Enes Unal is going to be out for some weeks, which does mean Bournemouth are going to be without a striker. Not really sure who is going to be playing in that position. It could be a variety of players. Any Bournemouth fans out there want to take a guess? I would love to hear from you in the comments section. Bournemouth also could sign Mamardashvili on loan in a complicated deal which involves him, Mamardashvili, signing from Valencia to Liverpool and back out on loan to Bournemouth. So if you've gone for Neto as your goalkeeper, just be aware of that potential move. And Bournemouth are also in the market for a new striker at the moment, so that could change very, very quickly. But that's probably going to be after the Game Week 1 deadline. So there's things to be aware of in terms of that team news that hasn't necessarily come true yet, but we've got to think one step ahead in FPL. For West Ham, Alvarez is out with a hamstring injury that he sustained on international duty, and Zuma is unlikely to play until his future is sorted. Apparently, not sure if he's going to stay at the club or not. And for Aston Villa, Watkins only returned to training on Tuesday, so he is available technically, but I just wanted to make you guys aware that he hasn't had many days of training before this weekend's game against West Ham, so something to just consider. Cash also back in training this week as well. Kamara and Mings still carrying those long-term injuries from last season. For Brentford, Rorslev, Pinnock and Janelt are available. However, Hickey and Henry are tight apparently for the first game, according to Brentford manager Thomas Frank. Thiago also picked up a knee injury during pre-season. He's ruled out until the end of December, so bad news there. Probably going to be Wissa and Burmo leading the line for Brentford against Crystal Palace. And speaking of Crystal Palace, Eze is linked with a move from Man City. That is the latest we have heard there. Man City obviously losing some players to injury, and they're a little bit worried, looking to sign a new winger. And I know a lot of people have Eze in their fantasy team with the hope that he will start the season playing for Crystal Palace. Now, this is just rumours at this moment. Nothing is done, nothing is signed. So if you think that Eze is going to stay at Crystal Palace, or if you're happy to make a transfer in your FPL team, if this does go wrong down the line, well, just be aware of this situation. And Mateta has also rejoined the training on Wednesday following his involvement in the Olympic Games in France, which only ended last weekend. So yeah, Mateta potentially could start in Game Week 1, but it's kind of touch and go there. I would not be looking to put him in my Game Week 1 team. And apparently there are no plans for a Gay sale either. So right now they are rejecting bids from Newcastle for Mark Gahey. So therefore we have to assume that Gay is going to continue as a Crystal Palace defender. But again, one to keep an eye on. For Chelsea, Palmer and Cucurella returned to training last week, so they should be good to go. They got some minutes in the friendly as well. Chilwell available after a minor injury scare, but doesn't look like he is going to be starting quite yet, as Maresca looks to find the correct position for Chilwell in the team, how to best utilise Chilwell. It's still not decided what his role is going to be in the Chelsea lineup. Reece James has had another injury setback, but he's suspended anyway, so I guess it's a good time for Reece James to get injured, if anything. And for Man City, Oscar Bob, he is going to be out for months with a leg injury. I think he's broken a bone in his leg, which is really, really unfortunate. Grealish also picked up a muscle injury last week, so you can see what I mean by Man City lacking a few wingers at the moment. Foden, Stones, Walker and Rodri have only just returned to training as well within the last couple of days, so I'm not sure if they are going to be able to start in Game Week 1, particularly with Man City's general squad depth. So be aware, if you are owning any of the players from Foden, Stones, Walker, Rodri, it might be a good idea to give them a miss for Game Week 1, because yeah, we're really not sure if they're going to be starting or not. not enough training, not enough time to get back up to speed for so many of those players. So yeah, something, again, to be aware of. And the final fixture is going to be on Monday between Leicester and Spurs. And for Leicester, Daka picked up a foot injury in the most recent friendly. Vardy and Cody are also going to miss the start of the season. So Leicester's striker situation isn't good. There isn't really a natural striker at the club right now, other than Cannon could potentially play as striker, the young guy, and also maybe Mavididi. Mavididi could play there as well. He's listed as a 5.5 million midfielder in FPL, so definitely one to keep an eye on. And Spurs, well, Solanke has trained well and is good for Game Week 1, according to manager Ange Postecoglou. So if you are a Solanke owner, I think you can feel pretty positive that he'll be ready to go by Monday. And an advantage for Spurs is that they do play the last game of Game Week 1, so they are going to be able to get players involved a little bit easier because they have that additional time. Basuma has been internally suspended. I won't go into the reasons why, but basically he's been a bit of a naughty boy. Feel free to discuss it in the comments if you'd like to, but I don't want to get demonetized, so I'm not going to say anything more on that one. But yeah, he's not suspended by the Premier League, he is suspended by the club. Hopefully he can get reintegrated at some point soon, but who knows. Richarlison and Udogie also available for selection, apparently. Udogie, I think, will start in the left-back position. Richarlison, more likely to be benched for Solanke. But given that Solanke hasn't had a huge pre-season with Spurs, I wonder if Richarlison could get some minutes towards the end of the game with Solanke maybe playing 70 odd minutes. I think that's something that is pretty likely to happen, and those guys are all of the fixtures. Let's talk about them a little bit more. So I want to race through these fixtures and kind of try and predict who I think is going to win each game. For the first fixture between Manchester United and Fulham, I think it's going to be a Manchester United win, given that they are at home. But I could also see a draw in this game. Between Liverpool and Ipswich, surely it's got to be a Liverpool win against newly promoted team. Yeah, it should be a few goals in that game for Liverpool. So Salah and Jota, definitely the kind of players I'd be looking at to try and take advantage of that. Arsenal should beat Wolves 2-0, which I think is going to be good for Arsenal's clean sheet prospects, at least in Game Week 1. Everton and Brighton, I see that being a 0-0 draw, so we're going to put that down there. For Bournemouth and Forest, again, I think this could be a draw here. Don't think either team are quite, I don't think Bournemouth are quite ready for action, given that they don't have a striker at the moment. But Nottingham Forest, do they have enough firepower to destroy a Bournemouth defence that actually wasn't too bad last season? I guess we'll see. Could be a 1-1 kind of draw in that game. Newcastle should beat Southampton, you would have thought. And as for West Ham versus Aston Villa, I think you've got to back Aston Villa, haven't you? I know they didn't end last season really, really well, but I don't know. It's this Aston Villa. I mean, I feel like they showed so much promise so much of last season, and West Ham have so many new players they need to integrate. I think it might take a few weeks for West Ham to get going. So we'll go for Aston Villa there. Brentford and Crystal Palace. Well, I'm going to say Crystal Palace. They were so impressive at the back end of last season, beating anyone in their way, really. One of the top teams in the Premier League under Ole Gardner in that second half of the season. For Chelsea versus Man City, I'm going to put Man City, but I think it could be marginal. I think Chelsea will give City a good game. And finally, Spurs surely are going to beat Leicester, who, again, lacking strikers, lacking forwards, and maybe even could keep a clean sheet, which is saying something for Spurs. They don't usually do too well in the clean sheet department. Those are my predictions. Now, you may have noticed we made those game predictions on a particular app, and that is actually the Sleeper Fantasy app on their Pick'em game, which is a simple but fun game where you can predict who will win, lose, or draw. Sleeper is a fantasy sports app with millions of players and hundreds of thousands of positive reviews. It really is an insane fantasy sports app, an alternative to FPL. And guys, I'm running a prize league this season. If you want to get involved and try and predict the results of games, just like I did, so easy to do. The first prize for my Pick'em league this year is going to be a PS5. We've got second place and third place prizes as well, of football shirt vouchers, as well as Amazon gift vouchers as well. And you can get involved in the monthly prizes as well. We're going to be giving away a whole bunch of vouchers to quite a decent amount of money. So yeah, lots of big prizes this year. We're giving away absolutely loads. So thank you so much for Sleeper for helping us provide these really nice prizes for you guys to get involved in. If you'd like to join the Pick'em League and have a chance of winning these prizes by correctly predicting winners, losers, and drawers of games, then you can click the link in the top of the description right now and get involved. Don't want to miss this, guys. Huge opportunity to win some big prizes. So a big question this game week is also around those 6.5 million midfielders. So I've just made a quick mini tier list for you guys and kind of explain who my favorite picks are. And I haven't just put 6.5 million midfielders on here. I've kind of put 6.5 million or less midfielders because I actually think players like Smith Rowe is a really nice pick as well. So Nkunku, Smith Rowe and Bailey are my 3 favorite midfielders in this kind of price bracket that I'd be looking to go for. These would be my priority guys if you are looking for that 6.5. I also think Kudus, Minter and Murphy, both of the latter two there are 5.5 million. I also think they look pretty good for picks as well. So definitely ones to consider, but not quite as good as those top picks. I also think there are other players to consider as well. Garnacho at 6.5, Gibbs White at 6.5, and Brereton Diaz and Mavididi both at 5.5. I like the look of those as well. And if I'm totally honest, if they're not on this list, I'm not personally considering them at all. So these would be my favourite 6.5 million or less midfielders to go for. So if you're asking me, Dan, which one should I go for? Well, ideally go for one of the top picks, but I don't mind some of these other picks as well. A quick goalkeeper tier list as well. I think Henderson and Raya are the 2 goalkeepers I'd go for. So you can kind of pick your goalkeeper in 2 ways. 1, you go for a 4.5 cheap guy like Henderson, or 2, you go a little bit more expensive and spend 5.5 on Raya. I think both of these players should score roughly the same. Raya should score a little bit more in fairness, but he costs a lot more money. So it might be worth going for the cheap guy in Henderson, but if you want to have that Arsenal defense covered, it could be that Raya is one of the better ways to do that at that slightly cheaper price tag than the likes of Saliba and Gabriel. We've also got some good picks here in Pickford at 5 million, Flecken at 4.5. Don't mind these guys either. And outside of that, I guess Sells at Nottingham Forest. He seems to be the starting goalkeeper for Forest now. And Pope and Martinez are also okay options at 5 million as well. By the way, guys, if you are going for Sells at 4.5, a little bit of a risk that long term he might not start. I think he'll start the start of the season, but after that, I don't know if maybe some of their other goalkeepers might have a chance of getting some game time. Miguel is one player I'm looking at from Forest who could take the position between the sticks fairly shortly. So just, again, things to be aware of as we go into game week 1, and just a small amount of medium to long-term risk with Sells. But hey, go for Henderson. Same price. I think he's probably the one to go for. Crystal Palace, really strong defence, and he's going to be the guy in net. For 4.5 defenders, I want to kind of do this slightly differently because I think there are 2 ways of going for 4.5 defenders. There aren't too many I would be comfortable with playing every single game week, but one I would be comfortable playing every game week would be Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa at Liverpool is a 4.5 million defender, and it looks like he's going to start most games for Liverpool as he suits Arne Slot's style of centre-back a little bit more. He's very good on the ball, and we really like the look of these Liverpool fixtures. Ipswich, Brentford, Man United, Forest, Bournemouth and Wolves are the opening 6 fixtures for Liverpool, so really nice. And although Konate may play some games, it might be wise to have something as a backup on your bench if you are going for Kwanzaa, maybe another 4.5 million defender. However, with the other 4.5s, I know who I would want as the backup because I think some of these 4.5 million defenders rotate really nicely. And these are my 2 favourite rotation pairing. So we've got Mykolenko and Anderson. So that will involve picking, 2 great defences, Everton and Crystal Palace, 2 of the best defences last season. And you can choose which one you're going to play each week. In game week 1, you play Mykolenko against Brighton. In game week 2, you play Anderson against West Ham. In game week 3, you play Mykolenko again against Bournemouth. Game week 4, you play Anderson against Leicester. Then Mykolenko against Leicester after that. And then finally, you would play Anderson against Everton. Most likely, they play each other. So this works really well, and you end up getting a load of really nice and mostly home fixtures all in a row when you pick these 2 defenders and rotate them. And both of them have excellent clean sheet odds in any given game week because they play for strong defenses. Now, the slightly more aggressive 4.5 million defender rotation is Hall and Robinson, 2 left backs, 2 players with a little bit more attacking potential, but they rotate quite nicely as well. So opening game week, you play Hall against Southampton. Game week 2, you play play Robinson against Leicester. Game week 3, you play Robinson again against Ipswich. Game week 4, probably play Hull against Wolves. Game week 5, you probably play, well, they play each other, so you probably go for Hull against Fulham. And then game week 6, you have got Robinson again against Nottingham Forest. So again, really, really nice rotation where you never have to play a difficult team. You could also go for a 3-man rotation if you picked, for example, Quansah and then one of the other 2 pairings. So Quansah, Mikalenko and Anderson, or Quansah, Hall and Robinson. That works really well as well. But definitely do recommend going for some of these rotations. They work really, really well for your game week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 teams. So you keep that rotation going. Always get those nice fixtures, because as we know with defenders, fixtures are really, really important. Far more important than fixtures are for attackers. Quick mini tier list on our Oscar Bob replacements. Those of you guys looking to replace Oscar Bob. And yeah, there are no top picks, good picks here. We've got okay picks at the absolute best. And Smith Rowe is my top pick. And he can only be an okay pick because, as you guys might have noticed, he's not 5 million. He cost a little bit more. And I think if you were going for Oscar Bob previously, you should probably just upgrade him to Smith Rowe. I think that's the most sensible thing to do. But there are other options here as well. Rodgers is a pretty decent pick at 5 million. Carvalho's just signed for Brentford. Will he play immediately? I don't know. Brentford fixtures are not amazing anyway, so maybe one to monitor rather than go for immediately. Ahmad could start the start of the season for Manchester United, but I imagine that it will be the likes of Rashford and Garnacho on the wings as we progress into the season. Man United really do have a lot of options on the wing when everyone is fit and available, so yeah, again, something to monitor. And then we've got the mega risky players. We've got Smallbone, should be nailed on for Southampton and will take a lot of set pieces. Sinisterra, we are predicting to start for Bournemouth. It's not a guarantee though, but he's a nice attacking winger. And maybe you can go for Enzo, a little bit of a set piece share, particularly if Palmer is not on the pitch. So that could get you some points technically as well, but I wouldn't feel super confident about that, which is why he's in the mega risky category. So those are your kind of Bob replacements you might go for, but ideally you just upgrade him to Smith Rowe. If not, Rodgers is my recommendation. But there are some other suggestions for you just in case you don't like Smith Rowe or Rodgers for whatever reason. So let's go through the best bench players, and by bench players I mean those players who are at the base price in their position. So 4 million goalkeepers and defenders and 4.5 million midfielders and forwards. So yes, in terms of goalkeepers, there isn't a single goalkeeper who costs 4 million who is expected to start for their club, unfortunately, guys. So unlike previous seasons where we had, Turner and Areola last season, Ward the season before, there isn't an option this year. So any goalkeeper you pick at 4 million for your bench, the only way they get any game time is if their first choice goalkeeper gets injured. And that assumes they are a second choice goalkeeper as well. So one piece of advice you can potentially do is if you have Pickford, you could go for Virginia as your bench goalkeeper because they both play for the same team. You've got Pickford as your starting goalkeeper and you've got Virginia as your second choice goalkeeper there. If Pickford ever gets injured, you will always have a goalkeeper. And then we've got Brentford, similar situation with Flecken and the Icelandic guy whose name I can never remember unless I have it written down. And today, I don't have it written down, unfortunately. I'm sure you guys will be shouting at me in the comments what the name is, but there we go. It's almost 4 a.m. now, so please do excuse me. In terms of defenders, by the way, guys, 4 million goalkeepers, just go for anyone. Unless you have the backup goalkeeper for your first choice goalkeeper, just go for anyone. It doesn't really matter too much. As long as you don't pick anyone likely to drop in value, like a Turner, for example, who is, by the way, a third choice goalkeeper for Forest now. For those defenders, Barco, Johnson, Harwood Bellis, Faz, and an interesting one from Aston Villa, Nedeljkovic. I think that's how you say his name. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he has been starting a lot of games at right back in pre-season. He's only 18 years old, so a real hot prospect. They signed him in January last year, actually, and they're looking to try and integrate him a little bit into the team. So maybe he could be one of those game-breaking picks. It's probably a little bit early to say. Barco looks good, at least for game week 1, but Johnson I really like, playing as a right winger, actually, for Ipswich at the moment. So he has got some really nice attacking potential. And Harwood Bellis and Faz are just kind of safe 4 million kind of defenders. They're going to probably get you 1 or 2 points most weeks if you desperately depend on them. For midfielders, Winks and Sangare are by far the two most likely to get regular minutes for their respective teams, but we've got some interesting players in Bergvall. He's a nice prospect for Spurs, could get some minutes, and Luongo could play for Ipswich as well. We're not exactly sure how many minutes he is going to get for Ipswich this season. So Winks and Sangare are probably your safe bets if you just want to get a couple of points on your bench as a safety, as a backup if anything goes wrong in your starting 11. And for forwards, yeah, it's not looking too good. Cannon could play, given that Leicester don't really have too many options up front at the moment. Jefferson could play, considering Bournemouth don't have any options up front at the moment, but Jefferson probably goes on loan, to be honest. And Stewart, not fully fit at the moment, not match fit at the moment, but he could potentially get some minutes as we go through the season. So the 4.5 million midfield slot is okay, but the forward slot is not looking particularly good. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but those are the kind of players I would be picking if I'm looking for those bench players. And actually, I do have a couple of these in my squad. I've whipped up a quick Game Week 1 Dream Team for you. Now, this is my prediction of the players that will creating the team that will score the most points in Game Week 1. It's kind of similar to the scout selections that the Premier League do each week, but this is my version. And this team, I think, will score a lot of points, but only for Game Week 1. So it's kind of like a one-off team per week, and could be interesting to target some of these players. So double Arsenal defense, Raya and Gabriel. We've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in here. Lewis Hall, I think, is set to start in Game Week 1 in the left-back position against Southampton, which is pretty nice. We've got double Liverpool midfield as well. Salah and Jota. Jota likely to play as a striker. Saka is our third Arsenal player against Wolves at home. Son against Leicester could be nice. And we've got Jacob Murphy, who should play regularly at the start of the season, at least, unless Newcastle sign a new right winger anytime soon. I think Murphy is going to play a lot of minutes. And against Southampton for 5.5 million, really do like this pick. Isak, of course, is going to be in this team as well. And Chris Wood, I've put in for Game Week 1. I think as we get towards Game Week 2, 3, and 4, Wood could become more risky as Awoniyi sees more minutes. But for now, I think Wood in Game Week 1 could be really, really strong. We've got Mykolenko on the bench as well. Other than that, it's a lot of duds on the bench mainly. We've got Barco there as well for some potential in the same fixture as Mykolenko, Brighton against Everton. But yeah, in general, I think this team is pretty good. Salah captain, Isak vice captain. These are the kind of players I think will score very well in Game Week 1 if you are looking to get off to a very strong start. In fairness, this team is not even too bad for the long term as well. If you want to just go with this for your team, it would work and you'd have a really strong start. So anyway, I made this team on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool where you can get your own team rating. And guys, this is your last call out to get 50% off and your money back if you don't win your mini league with the Fantasy Football Hub offer that they're running right now. Click the link in the description if you would like to get involved in that. It will be below the Sleeper Prize League link. But yeah, this is really your last chance. If you wait until after the Game Week 1 deadline, you won't be able to get this amazing deal anymore. So please do make sure you are subscribing now so you don't miss out. There are some amazing tools on there that have really helped me improve my fantasy game over the past 4 years that I've been using them. And they are, most of the winning FPL managers are now using Fantasy Football Hub to improve their game. So if you are a serious FPL manager, it's definitely something you need to get involved in. If you are not so serious and you would like to become serious, this is the way to do it. But if you're just not very serious and you want to remain unserious, then I suppose it's not for you. But let's move on, because I also want to show you the top predicted points from the Fantasy Football Hub algorithm. They predict all of points for players to try and work out, based on statistics, based on all of the numbers, who is most likely to get FPL points in any given game week, which is how it rates your team. It's how it all works like that. And for Game Week 1, I thought we would look at the top picks to see who is worth captaining this week. And 4 players stood above the rest for predicted points. No one else really got close to these 4. And these 4 are actually fairly close in predicted points as well. Closer than you might have expected. Of course, Salah is at top with 7.5 predicted points for his fixture against Ipswich. But Not far behind, Haaland and Isak joint with 7.2 predicted points each. So that is actually really surprisingly close. And actually, if you don't have Salah, I think you can cover game week 1 with one of these other guys, captain. They probably won't score quite as many points as Salah, but it's going to be very, very close. And of course, Saka against Wolves, pretty decent there as well. But again, thank you to Fantasy Football Hub for their predicted points and their data. Really helpful. Link in the description. But that is going to be our final video done before the deadline. Guys, if you enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. It really does mean a lot to me, particularly as I've stayed up till 4 a.m. to make this video. Probably be 5 a.m. by the time I finish editing it and posting it. But there we go. That is the life of the FPL YouTuber. Subscribe if you haven't done already, if you want to see this content every single week. And check out another video. There is a video on screen that YouTube thinks you might like. It might even be my latest team selection, which is a really good team, by the way. Check it out. But yeah, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.